George says, it has been a great meeting, and one that has been difficult to pull together given that so many people have been so involved in their occupations over the last few years. On the back of this great meeting, I would like to propose that that we set up a committee, a Stop the War National Student Committee, to carry out the work that we've been doing so diligently on our campuses over the last few weeks. I would propose that we take one delegate from each of the colleges that are here, that you guys elect from your own colleges or from your own delegation, and then we hold the meeting as quickly as we can. First of all, to push forward this charter, but our first act as a committee should be to send solidarity greetings to the students of the University of Rochester in New York who have just gone into occupation on the same issues we have. I think were we to do that, we could see ourselves at the beginning of a movement of occupations across the world to say no to the occupation of Afghanistan and no to the assault on Gaza and troops out of Iraq now. Thank you very much.
This is clearly evident in the fact that we've had the biggest demonstrations for Palestine ever in the history of this country just in the last month. They've also been the most militant demonstrations in the history of the Stop the War Coalition. And really, we need to embrace and defend and extend this militancy. These occupations that we've had up and down the country in all these various universities are a part of this newfound radicalism, newfound assertiveness and confidence of the anti-war and pro-Palestine movement. And I think what we've, Tony Benn often says that we need to stop protesting and start demanding, and really we've started doing that. And what we've shown is that this tactic works. It works because we've won all these demands up and down the country, and now we've seen it feeding back out into the streets with the occupation of in Glasgow of the BBC building there, and also just last week workers in Dublin at the Waterford Crystal factory occupied the head offices of the company which is now receiving them and threatening to axe about 500 jobs. So it's really exciting to be in a part of a movement which is feeding back into the other struggles that are going on. And I think as we engage in the forthcoming struggles, be they about war and imperialism, or against job losses, or against the increasing of top-up fees in universities, the memory of these occupations and these radical movements in the streets are going to be fresh in people's mind, and it's going to be much easier to mobilize people. And I'd like to. The only thing I think was lacking from our occupations was a national demand. We had all these brilliant, victories won off our local university administrations, but in future we should bear in mind that we need a national demand on the government as well to kind of give more coherence to our movement and to try to take it further. And just I'd like to end on this point, Chair. Last week, people have already mentioned the Israeli war criminal, a colonel who was responsible for Operation Cast-led, the 2008-2009 attack on Gaza, which has resulted in so many deaths and so much suffering, was supposed to speak at the National Union of Jewish Students meeting in central London. Now, Stop the War and other activists were outside the building. They managed to stop the meeting from going ahead. He counselled, and he was afraid of being arrested for war crimes and fled the country like the coward that he is. On Monday, the Israeli ambassador has been invited by Kensington and Chelsea Council to address him in Kensington Town Hall. I think it's really important that all of us are up there on Monday at 5:30 Kensington Town Hall to stop the Israeli ambassador from being able to speak there and send a clear message that we think, this man should be expelled for the war crimes of the country he represents and not given all this diplomatic respect. We need to go back to our universities and start building now for the G20. So come April, we smash the G20 in London. We need to start building now for Strasbourg so that we can crash the NATO 60th birthday. And we as students are in a particularly good position here because we have the energy and the time, frankly, the energy and the time.
This movement is channeled together with all the other forces in the Stop the War Coalition. If we disintegrate into small rivers, we'll not be noticed. If all the rivers feed into the same flow, going in the same direction, then we can move mountains. Now, I'm not in the SWP, to say the least. But those in the leadership of the Stop the War Coalition who are in the SWP are amongst the most outstanding leaders of the movement. And they don't let their own party political interests get in the way of the need to build the broadest possible coalition behind the banner of Stop the War. It's really crucial. Please, I beg you, don't go off into different directions. Join this student committee that's just been set up. Everyone get their energies and their efforts into that. And then you'll be a significant part of what is a mighty movement, stretching not just across the organizations that you mentioned, Melanie, but trade unions, the biggest trade unions in the land are affiliated to the Stop the War Coalition. Not just political parties, but civil society organizations of great importance and immense size. And we really must take this opportunity that's afforded by this upsurge to fuse student radicalism with trade union radicalism, with civil society radicalism, with the Muslim community, with all sorts of streams coming together and making a mighty roar. And the first time out is when the G20 comes to London. I hope the students will be there in numbers. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Anti-imperialism, follow the hierarchy.
Are you going to the bar afterwards?
Are you going to send your notes to the guests? Do you think that would be a good idea? I think so.